you see me? Well, maybe you can't, because I'm hidden behind this enormous copy of Ticket to Ride Europe 15th Anniversary Edition. Days of Wonder is putting out a 15th Anniversary Edition to celebrate 15 years of Ticket to Ride Europe. If you're not familiar, it's the second game in the Ticket to Ride series. After the original, it moves things to, if you hadn't guessed from the name, Europe, rather than North America. It also introduced some new aspects like tunnels that you could pay extra cards for, or had to pay extra cards for if you drew some extras, and also stations which allowed you to use some of your opponent's routes if you found yourself just clogging up with trains in the middle of Brussels somewhere. So this version is bigger. In fact, it's this much bigger than the original. But is it better? And particularly, is it worth 100 British pounds or $100 if you're over in the US, which is what this new version costs? It's billed as kind of a premium offering, but I, Matt Jarvis of Dicebreaker, am here to unbox some of it, run you through some of the new additions and some of the improvements they've made, and also pick out some things that I think aren't quite as good as the classic. So let's get going, shall we? Let's start unboxing. So, Ticket to Ride Europe, as you can see, it's a massive new box. It's got this on the front, which is very sort of similar but different to the original artwork. For some reason, they put a massive border around it, so you can't see it as clearly anymore. The board also it's just enormous. So I don't think I'm even going to be able to fit it on the camera, but it fills my dining room table, which you... Oh goodness, it's the wrong way around. It's this big, which is far too big to get into this camera shot, and also just about fills this table that you can see in front of me, which is why I haven't set it up. So it is much bigger than the original. One of the things that I like about this new map is that it's a lot more colourful than the original, which was kind of like a muted sepia. The games are set in like 1901, so it was all kind of old-timey photograph, but it just meant that it was a bit dull and brown. Whereas this one is much more kind of colourful with blue seas. And I think if I turn this, yeah, you can see there's a bit of snow up here. It's a bit more varied. Instead of the pictures of like planes and wagons and so on the original Europe board, they now have little pictures of like the Eiffel Tower and other landmarks from around Europe, which is quite sweet. So I think the map generally is an improvement if you've got room for it on your table, because it's enormous. But the big kind of headline thing in this set are the trains. Of course, it's a train game. It's all about the trains. So the trains now come in these little metal tins. You get kind of like fictional companies that you are now building train routes for, like the Western Postal Service or Estrella Violetta, and the Royal Delval Automobiles cars. So that's a really nice little touch. We'll break those out in a second. I'm just going to start getting out the original Ticket to Ride Europe, so you can see the differences in this new game. So you can see that, like I said, the original board a bit more muted. If I put it next to it there, you can see it's a bit less vibrant. It's not too bad. In terms of scale, I think that is actually about, when they're all unfolded, you can go and look at some pictures over on Dicebreaker.com. I've taken up the full board, but it's about that much difference. Imagine that folded out. So it's significantly bigger. Otherwise, the map is largely the same. The routes haven't changed, anything like that. The gameplay, in fact, in the set, it's completely the same. All of the changes are visual ones. The only real change in the two rulebooks is that this one's now square for some reason. The wording is almost exactly the same, except they don't just default to he, him pronouns now, which is a nice improvement. Well done, Days of Wonder. Although the fact it happened in the first place, not so great. So, like I say, the big improvement in Ticket to Ride Europe 15th Anniversary Edition is the trains. So if you've played original Ticket to Ride or Ticket to Ride Europe, you'll remember that all the trains basically look a bit like this. They're just kind of like hollow, plastic blocks, like red, blue. They're all the same. There's no real distinguishing factors. But in this new set, they take on a bit more personality. So, and they match the companies that you're operating for. So, the Western Postal Service now is a little postal truck carriage to match. And if I open up purple, which doesn't really have a direct counterpart, but I think it's oil or probably fuel in 1901, right? I am not a historian. Apologies, historians who know much more than me. So you've got that. These brown ones are lumber, as you might expect. So they're little dinky logs. The blue ones for Royal de Vale automobiles. You couldn't guess already from the name. Tiny little cars just travelling on a train. And then finally, I believe that's Russian. Apologies, those in the know. I think that's steel, so they're like steel wire reels. So those are your 5 different companies that you're now working for. And honestly, I think these trains are the highlight of this set. They're relatively nicely produced, but unfortunately, while I was going through, I found a number of kind of misprints. Actually, I found one for at least each of the different companies. So you can see here, oh, if the camera focuses, oh, come on camera. This creeps round onto the end. It's just slightly misprinted, it's offset. You can see there at this edge, it kind of bends round and the P ends up round the corner. And here the windows of the car creep over the windows of the car, so that the paint has bled over. Here the kind of the brown wooden sides are not quite aligned correctly. I can't find the other one that I've got, but unfortunately I found at least one train for each of the 5 that were misprinted, and in multiple cases I found multiple trains of the same type that were like misprinted, didn't look quite right. It's worth saying they do give you some spares in the box, so I think you normally play with 45 trains, so I think you normally get like a couple of extras, like 2, 3, 4, something like that. But in a set that is £100, $100, it's disappointing to see that the consistency is just not there for what is, you know, the best part of the set. It's like little dinky trains, that's really fun. But just seeing them kind of, and from a relative distance you can tell that they're not quite printed right. It's only a couple of millimeters, but it does make a difference, which I found really disappointing. Other things that I'm not so hot on about this set include the train card. So for those kind of new to Ticket to Ride, you collect different train cards. These are not shuffled. So you collect different colours of train cards, you play them to claim routes on the thing, on the map. So on these, you know, they've got trains on. They're very easy to see, they are the colour they are. And on the back of the original cards, you kind of had this illustration of a train in front of a clock, you know, and a gear, that kind of thing. And it's, you know, I've never really thought much about it in my life, I'll be honest. I've never really considered the backs of the Ticket to Ride cards until I started looking at the ones in the new set, which they've just slapped the logo on, and it just feels a bit naff, honestly. It just feels a bit rubbish. You know, you're paying top whack for a set, and then they've taken away what is essentially like a innocuous but pretty, you know, pretty fine illustration and just slapped a bit of branding in the way. So I don't love that. I think the trains on the front actually are an improvement. They've got a bit more detail. They kind of line up with the. Let me see if I can find a black one. So there we go. There are 2 black cards next to each other, so you can kind of tell that they've got a bit more detail. They've got like a fancier frame. So like that's fine, except in Ticket to Ride there are wild cards, which are, like, most people call them rainbow cards for reasons that will become obvious. So you claim routes using these rainbow cards, and they count as any colour. So, you know, and in Ticket to Ride Europe they're especially important because if you draw any rainbow cards while claiming a tunnel, they count as any colour and you have to then pay extra cards to claim that tunnel. And in the original game, they had kind of like a vibrant hue behind them, they were rainbow cards. In the new game, they've just made them mostly grey, and then they've just put the rainbow in these two corners, which is really disappointing. It means that at a glance, like if I hold them back over here, it's actually quite hard to tell that that's a rainbow card. This one you can tell is a rainbow card. This one, unless you've got pretty good eyesight and you're looking for the frames, that could be, it's not a million miles away from the black train cards. So I'm not sure why they've made that difference. The board is more colourful. In general, the game, the 15th anniversary edition, has more colour to it. So why they've decided that the rainbow cards, the most colourful part of Ticket to Ride, should be muted and turned into grey engines with just, kind of rainbow, like not even the full frame, just two corners, is disappointing. I will add that for those who struggle to tell colours apart, both the old game and the new game have symbols on the colours, so you can see some on the orange here, so you can more easily tell the different colours apart if you are colourblind, for instance. To compare the other cards, so your destination tickets, obviously they are a huge part of Ticket to Ride. They're the things that give you points as you fulfill journeys across Europe. So here are the old ones. They're quite brown. They're not super exciting. Here are the new ones. It's got the box art on it. They're a bit, they're blue. They've got some of the carriages up top, so they're a little bit more colourful. And again, on the front, they kind of match the board in that they're a bit more colourful, have a bit more life to them. So I think those are generally an improvement. But I think the main train cards, kind of the main point of Ticket to Ride, disappointing. One benefit of Ticket to Ride Europe 15th Anniversary Edition, though, is that it includes all of the destination cards released to date for the game. So that's for Ticket to Ride Europe specifically. So obviously the ones from the original game, there's ones from the Europa 1912 expansion, the Orient Express mini expansion, the Ticket to Ride with Max, which was like a marketing promo thing that Days of Wonder did in 2017. They're all in here. So there are multiple variants to play the game listed on the back of the rulebook. I think there's I'm going to double check this. I should have looked it up before the video, but I'm going to just check it here. There are 108 destination ticket cards. So it's about, I think it's like double the original, 46 in the original game. So if you're looking to get everything that's ever been released for Ticket to Ride Europe, this is the place to get it. But bear in mind that it will come in the caveat of some of the cards won't potentially be as visually outstanding. Other changes include the player markers, which you use to track your score. They've been jazzed up a little bit. In general, it is, it's a much more kind of extravagant set. Certainly it's bigger, there's no doubt about that. The other thing that's also new, I say new, but alongside the trains themselves that have been changed are the stations that you use. So in Ticket to Ride Europe, stations are introduced, and when you place a station paying either 1, 2 or 3 cards, depending on how many you've already built, it means that you can use somebody else's route. So it's a little more forgiving than normal Ticket to Ride. If you've seen our Let's Play of Ticket to Ride here on Dicebreaker, you'll know that it can get very competitive as people block each other's routes, and you have to take the long way around. Ticket to Ride Europe reduces that just a little bit, because you can build a station and then use somebody else's route, like hopping on their train or something. So they're kind of a key part of the game, and I think generally Ticket to Ride Europe is considered one of the best in the series, if not the best in the series, because of the gameplay differences it makes. So here are the original stations, and the stations in the new version, they're different, but they're not quite different enough for me. I feel like they're quite similar to their original appearance. And also, whereas the trains all have a bit of character, you can kind of get into the sense of, you know, you're shipping automobiles around by rail or you're sending lumber across Europe. The stations are just kind of the same. They're just, and you know, train stations, not necessarily known for their architectural kind of beauty. Some are, some aren't, some are just kind of very utilitarian. But I think it just feels like a bit of a missed opportunity. The only thing different here is the roof, and like that's fine, but I don't know, it just feels a bit boring, doesn't it? To go like, oh, look how different our trains are, like next to each other. They feel, you know, so different, and then oh, but our stations are just clock towers again. So those are most of the additions in Ticket to Ride Europe. It's bigger. Is it better? In some ways, I think it is. There are definitely visual improvements. It's a lot more colourful. I think if you are a huge fan of Ticket to Ride Europe, you know, this is a set that kind of celebrates that. It's more celebratory of Europe in general. You can see landmarks. You can kind of see the different resources and like things being sent by rail at the start of the 20th century. But that comes with the caveat of this is a box that costs £100, $100. Original Ticket to Ride Europe, I think its original RRP was £40, but you can realistically, it's been out 15 years, so you can realistically now find it for 25 quid. So that makes this new set almost 4 times the price. And is it 4 times as good? Honestly, I don't think so. It's going to take up more room in your cupboard. It adds some really nice parts, but also it's a real mixed bag. I think, you know, you might feel differently about the cards than I do, but I think on the whole, the visual improvements aren't worth the price of admission, aren't worth the ticket price, if you will. So it's a bit of a disappointment. Ticket to Ride is one of my favourite games of all time. I think it is a fantastic game that everyone should play at some point. I think that Ticket to Ride Europe is one of the best versions of Ticket to Ride. Whether you've played the original or whether you're looking to get into the series for the first time, I think this original box remains, you know, something that everyone should play at least once and give a go. This new box, if you absolutely love it, if you really, really love Ticket to Ride, and you know, that £100 is yours, spend it as you will, but I think for most people it's not going to be worth the step up in price. So it's with a heavy heart that unfortunately I think I can't really recommend the 15th anniversary edition to anyone apart from the most kind of diehard of Ticket to Ride fans, and that would normally include me. But I think if we were kindly sent this copy by Days of Wonder, I think if I was spending my own money, I would probably spend it on something else. I would buy another entry in the Ticket to Ride series. I would buy another train game, or I would look to pick up some kind of premium accessories for another game that I love, because I don't think that the additions here are quite worth it. But hopefully that at least gives you a decent sense of what to expect in Ticket to Ride 15th Anniversary Edition. It's coming out later this summer. I believe it's out relatively soon. By the time this video comes out, it may already be out. We'll try and throw some links in the description if so. But until we meet again, whether it's for a train game or something else, whether it's on passing carriages as we wave to each other, I've been Matt Jarvis. This has been Ticket to Ride Europe 15th Anniversary Edition. We are Dicebreaker. If you'd like to see more of us, check us out on youtube.com/Dicebreaker. That's the channel you're watching right now. Head over to dicebreaker.com where we have a full kind of breakdown of what's inside the box of Ticket to Ride Europe 15th Anniversary Edition, along with other coverage of board games and tabletop RPGs and all kinds of things that go on a tabletop. But until we meet again, stay safe out there and have a lovely day. Bye-bye.